Hello and welcome to another episode of Cosmos with Bailey. I'm Bailey and I am a psychic medium and spiritual healer based in New Zealand. Today's video is going to be on psychedelics and the psychic realms and what happens from an energetic perspective and spiritual perspective when we ingest or maybe get a little bit too carried away with psychedelics. Now, disclaimer, I've only taken, in my 20s, I took DMT twice and it was enough for me, and I have not taken ayahuasca, but I have also had many past lives in working with these energies, so I know what I'm talking about. And I've also seen a lot of things play out, and because of my expertise in spiritual healing, I have vast knowledge on what happens to us when we ingest too many psychedelics. So I'm going to talk about psychedelics, spiritual healing, what happens to the realms and also you when we do these things, and how can you help yourself come back down to the earth and come back down into reality, and also help yourself find someone who knows what they're doing and help you. And also, if you are curious about psychedelics, you want to make sure that you're going to find someone who is a very spiritually mature guide. All right. So, let's talk about, so that was the first thing I wrote down. Picking a spiritually mature guide if you're wanting to do psychedelics. I'm understanding that we all have many different vast pathways on this earth, and that sometimes things like ayahuasca are a part of our journeys, but also I would deeply question if you take too much ayahuasca, you're doing it every weekend, you're doing it every month, you're doing psychedelics quite regularly. I would deeply question why you feel the need to do that so often, because usually even with energy healings and spiritual experiences, if we go on retreats, you do not need to be doing them. You do not need to be doing them all the time. So sometimes what happens is that we can get really carried away with what we deem to be highly spiritual experiences. And this can happen when we do not have the necessary discernment or balance within. And what happens, especially with something like the spiritual ego, is that it can convince itself that the only way you can be spiritual or reach these higher realms of information, knowledge or wisdom, or, have a connection to the cosmos is through taking a substance quite regularly. I also feel that people will take substances like that maybe because they are trying to escape their feelings in the physical body. And so it's easier to ingest a substance like that and feel better outside of the body. However, you are not negating the fact or changing anything or any feelings within your body or addressing why it is you don't want to be in your body. Because first and foremost, you want to aim to feel good in your body while you're on the earth. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that they can feel amazing in their bodies. But that just requires a little bit of spiritual work, clearing and being really honest about yourself and what you're wanting to experience. Because in the spiritual communities, there is an incredible amount of escapism. And that doesn't really solve anything. And it's very easy to escape the real world reality and your feelings and emotions in the body by taking something like a substance or psychedelics to literally just help you survive on the earth. And what can happen is that substances that open us up in that way can get very glorified and glamorized, and they can have very vast and profound effects on us, and it's very hard to come back from them sometimes and into the everyday real world and actually function grounded in your body. especially if you blast off with something like ayahuasca or DMT or mushrooms regularly. And you can get very, very carried away with spiritual ideology if you're continuously blasting yourself out of the body and then coming back in. You're not going to be able to, when people talk about being grounded all the time, but I know you cannot be fully grounded unless you're really, really in your body. And for this reason, I'm not a massive fan of, I don't feel as a healer it's a wise idea to be ingesting something like ayahuasca regularly or something like psychedelics regularly. I know they have their place, and I do know that there's people out there that know what they're doing, and I do know that you can have some really amazing, profound experiences with them. But it's also, you've got to be really careful as well, because what happens when you blast off on these retreats, you know what I mean? It's so intense, and you're opening up to this completely different realm of experience, and your consciousness is coming back into the body, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh. And people don't realize that it actually takes a lot of time for you to adjust after having those experiences. And sometimes I think what happens is that people don't give themselves enough of a break to really ingest the experience and let it settle in the body. Even when I do energy healing, I do not recommend going and getting a healing. You're getting vast amounts of light and clearing of the energy body. And that takes time, and you need rest and recuperation, and you need time and space to navigate those experiences. And that's why it's really important to pick a good guide, because a good guide will know this and be able to navigate the experiences with you. And they'll say things to you like, you know, take it really easy, drink lots of water, stay off media, don't expect yourself to just pop back into life. It's things with ayahuasca and DMT and stuff like that. I think it depends on where you are in your own journey, but they can be really, really overwhelming. And if you go off on those retreats, then try and integrate yourself back into the everyday world. It can be really, really confronting, and it's really hard to integrate yourself back into the world that you're not fitting in after such a vast experience like that. And if you've had experiences like that and you're really, really struggling with the real everyday world, please, please, please go and see a healer or a shaman that can help you back into your body and ground you. Sometimes it's really beneficial to go and see someone who can help you after those experiences if you're really struggling on the spiritual front. Yeah, too many psychedelics can create incredible mental confusion. You're blasting off. You're going off. You could be going off to something like the astral realm. That's not actually a spiritual realm at all. It's a realm full of energies and energies that don't have your best interest at heart. You could think you're talking to something that's like a light being or whatever, and it's not a light being. And this is the thing with this stuff like taking too much psychedelics, that if you're not trained in understanding the realms and dimensions and what is going on in these realms and dimensions, you're going to believe all sorts of hullabaloo and then come back into the earth realm, and you're going to be very, very mentally confused and disorientated because you haven't been given the necessary guidance to understand what you've experienced. And also this is what, and you can also go through really, really intense healing crises after taking something like an ayahuasca or psychedelics, and going through this massive breakdown whilst also trying to work, trying to raise a family, or trying to have a partner. Usually when I have people come through my healing modules, I always say in the notes, it is very important that you explain to your partner or anyone else around you that you're going to need some time and space to process what you're going through. Even if we're doing chakra work and I am bringing through energies and we're doing group work, you have to honor the process. And if you go and have these spiritual retreat experiences and you come back and you can't handle it, you need some help. Sometimes it's really overwhelming to navigate that by yourself. And for this reason, I feel like a lot of guides out there are not mature enough to be doing spiritual guiding. They do not understand the ramifications of sort of blasting off up into the cosmos and these realms and the astral realms and whatnot, then coming back into the body. It can create a type of healing crisis that is very, very hard to navigate by yourself, and you may not know what's going on. And this brings me to spiritual maturity. Being a bit more mature with these things like psychedelics and ayahuasca, and really questioning if it's necessary or needed for your journey. What can happen is that the ego, as I said, the spiritual ego loves to glorify and glamorize the spiritual. And when something like ayahuasca or, DMT or mushies get really, really popular, and to me, it looks like a form of escapism, or you're trying to escape a part of your reality, or there's something going on in your body that you're not liking. You feel like you don't have control, and it's very easy to want to become a healer or a shaman just because you've taken ayahuasca, because maybe you're dissatisfied with your everyday life, and it's become a very glorified thing to be a shaman or a healer. But it actually takes an incredible amount of spiritual maturity to be doing that line of work in the first place, and usually souls that have come to do that work have been doing it for a very, very long time. And have very, very deep and vast understanding of these things, and can help you process and be a support through them. The glitz and glam of the astral as well. You just don't know what you're talking to, and you don't know what you're bringing back with you into the physical realm. So this is what I think we can get some really iffy channeling. And because you've made connections, I've said this in a few other videos, you may want to watch Why We Should Not Be Channeling Aliens. That will give you a really good idea of channeling. You just don't know what you're talking to. And if someone hasn't explained to you what's going on, you could believe you're talking to some advanced galactic being or angel, or you know what I mean, and not understand that you've gone out this way. And you should just be keeping this way. And what happens with spiritual, I want to say consumerism for some reason, is that with consumerism, things get made and marketed to be very glitz and glam for the purpose of money. And that's ego. And a lot of the times with very, very good spiritual teachings and healings and programs is that they're incredibly basic and common sense and easy to work with, and have vast long-term effects on you and really do their job. And people don't want to hear that. People want to hear that the spiritual is very, it's very, oh my goodness, it's glitz and glam, and they really want to believe that it's like that. But from my experience, the best healings and the best insights come from common sense. And to get long-term results and to feel better in your body, you have to work with your body and what's going on in it. You can't be working with stuff that's out there. You're on the earth and you've got to work with your body. And I think someone said something about spiritual bypassing. So you've got to be careful that you're not using these substances to try and escape, or you believe you're on a spiritual pathway, but you're really just trying to escape your reality and the discomfort and the breakdowns that you're having. And this can also lead to addiction. So it's very easy to get addicted to these spiritual experiences. It's very easy to get very, very addicted to being overly spiritual and spiritually very self-important. And that comes with, again, spiritual maturity, and that no one's really that important. But at the same time, we are important because we are here having our unique experiences. But the idea that someone is more spiritual than the next person is a little bit silly. And you're looking for someone who's pretty grounded and mature in what they're saying. As with anything, I'm sure you wouldn't go to a business with someone who didn't look like they knew what they were doing. Okay, yeah, and that can lead to drug addiction as well, and also addiction in the physical realm. And what you've been channeling if you're taking too much ayahuasca, and how that's affecting the physical reality that you're experiencing. And you can get addicted to these spiritual highs if you do them long enough, because it's so much more exciting than actually having to deal with stuff in the physical reality. In that case, I would deeply ask if you have some hobbies that you enjoy, or if you maybe need to find a new job that you enjoy. Being spiritual does not mean that you have to have a vastly spiritual life, or a type of costume to be spiritual. You're here to have an experience in the body, and we're here to enjoy the physical realm, and depending on what you feel drawn to, you can have many exciting experiences here in the earth realm if you just come back to your body. And they also can lead to dissociation of the real world, of the earth, and the earth's consciousness. You can get really caught up in the idea of the cosmos, and even though it's called Cosmos with Bailey, it's more so about, you can get really dissociated from earth, the real everyday real reality, people around you, and you can become dissociated from who you are and your body and your experience, believing that it's probably not enough. So you've got to be careful with things like psychedelics, and really deeply question if it's necessary to be taking them so often. And also it becomes a little bit like a cult. And you sort of begin to adhere to a certain way of life with psychedelics, and you sort of believe that you can't live your life without these really intense spiritual experiences, and you can become really, really dissociated from living a good life in the everyday real world. Okay, so I'm going to leave this video by saying, if you are struggling with coming back to your body and integrating yourself after taking multiple psychedelics, please, please, please ask yourself, ask your higher self to guide you to someone who can help you understand and integrate the experience more fully. If you take too much of these things, you can become fragmented, spiritually lost, and sort of just give yourself away to these experiences and completely forgo what's happening in the here and now in your body. This is where, again, a very good healer or shaman comes in, and they can help you process and support you through what you're experiencing. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful.